Okay, welcome to the OSPARK Bootcamp 3 webinar. Um, Bits of housekeeping first of all. There is, if you're watching this live, we have the Otter AI transcript, so you can follow along if you prefer. That also provides accessibility, for example, if you are hard of hearing or deaf, or in some cases, people say they have ADHD, it's actually easier for them to follow that way. Um, Anyway, my name is Yo. I will talk a bit about the OSPARK Bootcamp, what it's like, what it's about, our goals, and some of the logistics as well. And then we'll have some time for questions. We'll start with the screen sharing thing. So we click on slideshow there, and then we click on share. And let's just do the one window and not randomly share our notifications. All right. Okay, can you see a purple screen that says, "Oh, Spark"? I've got a nod. Thank you, my friends. Okay, so yeah, I'm Yo. You see we have Bethan with us as well, and Patricia, she's also from OLS. And briefly mentioning the rest of the OSPARK team, there is our friends from DRA, the Digital Research Academy, Heidi and Joyce. They're not here with us today, but they will be heavily involved in the logistics and the delivery of the course later on. So, this is a collaboration between our two organizations. The Digital Research Academy is based in Germany, but does operations primarily in Europe, but I think worldwide, really. If you've ever heard of the Open Science Retreat, then those are the folks that run that. OLS, on the meantime, we used to stand for Open Life Science, which is what OLS stands for, but we really quickly realized that actually open research skills, whether it's life science or anything else, most of them are the same. There are domain specific things, but we try and focus on the interpersonal and sometimes the logistical as well of open research for things like people might want to run their own initiative outside of a university, and that takes business skills that we probably didn't learn. So that's the kind of thing OLS focuses on, things like equity, open research, culture, and interpersonal. Um, no, I wasn't done with that one yet. Or was I? I changed my mind. I think I am. All right, so I will tell you a bit about why we're doing what we're doing, while we're talking about OSPARK. And so, at least for me, my experience was that when I did my primary and secondary education, it was reasonably broad. It covered a lot of areas, by no means all things, but it covered a lot of things. But when we moved on to education for bachelor's and eventually I also did a PhD, it gets more and more narrow and like deep, much, much deeper, but it's really focused on tiny things. And that means that whilst I have these really fancy degrees, I actually am not really qualified in almost anything at all, just like this tiny, tiny little area of computer science. Um, and so what that leaves me with is actually, I'm not sure how good at outreach and marketing I am. And this was kind of one of our premises when the OLS and DRA folks put together the OSPARK project, was that we're sure that everyone else is in a very similar boat, that we know we're good at some things, and maybe we love our research, or maybe it's coding we like, or maybe it is lab work. Um, but we know we actually have to do outreach and marketing as well, and that could be SciComm, but we're not really focusing on SciComm here at all. It also, are you going to have to convince your boss about something? Are you going to have to reach out to other members of a consortium? Do you want policymakers to be understanding your work? There are lots of reasons that you might want to be better, more focused, more targeted around outreach, around marketing. And we think that it's maybe something that's a bit under-resourced in terms of the scientific and research domains. So we said, let's build an evidence-based course that we can iterate upon and that we can share with others, and hopefully they can continue to share onwards as well. So OSPARK stands for Open Science Promotion and Advocacy for Research Knowledge. Now you can tell this slide was not made by me because I do not know what the little asterisk, which I think is German, means. And I'm going to ask Patricia if she knows.
That was actually me. I put that in.
Oh, tell me,
So even
Bethan.
though Yeah, so even though it's called the OSPARK program, it says open science. This is open to all research disciplines. So it's rather open research. It's just that science, it just makes a nice acronym. Like, let's be honest, that's the reason. Our retcon on this is that it's science as in Wissenschaft, which is a German word which means like systematic sc study, like scholarly study. Yeah, so uh, that's the reason that's there.
Why, thank you. I did not think to lean on the Irish English person to give me the German words, but there we are. Thank you, Bethan. No, that's great. And it is one of my favorite points is that open science is such a popular term, but we really don't focus only on what some people would call science. We focus on anyone who does research, including people outside of academia or people who might work within academia but don't consider themselves researchers. Because they say it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a lot of people to write a paper and to produce knowledge, not just the fancy PIs, postdocs, and confused PhD students. Um, so I think I've sort of given you the idea. We're trying to focus on marketing and outreach, and sort of to co-create together these plans, working with our peers whilst we're doing it. So some of the logistics of this, the course is 6 weeks. That is a combination of email and a combination of interactive online calls. They cover pretty much the same thing. Like the Venn diagram overlap won't be perfectly complete, but the cohort course will cover the same stuff as the email course. So if you missed an email one day but you made it to the cohort or vice versa, you'll probably be fine. The idea is pedagogical technique of reinforcing it by giving different ways to learn and repetition. The online cohort calls, I think, are the best part. I absolutely, utterly adore spending time with other people, thinking over the challenges, problems, and listening to experts talk a little bit about some of the different techniques that you can be using. But they're designed to be really interactive. So you'll be able to talk with other people in the cohort. You'll be able to spend some time reflecting and thinking. And we also give people a workbook. So that workbook the exercises in that, there might be times when you can just meet together with the other people in the cohort and say, actually, I've been working through this and, this doesn't make sense, or how did you handle through this? With the idea that by talking through it, you can also help embed it even further and give other people's perspectives. There is also an in-person component. It is not mandatory, but I'm told it's great fun. Um, the in-person component is in Zurich. Um, the dates come up on the next slide, I think. It's 2 days in person. There's some hands-on training sessions. Actually, Bethan, to put you on the spot, because you were like, was it 2 weeks ago or was it last week that you were doing the second one?
Yeah, it was something like that. That sounds about right.
Can you tell us a bit about how they go?
Yeah. So if you've ever been to like a unconference or a bar camp, it's kind of similar to that. So there are some kind of structured parts where there are some talks. So at the most recent one in Munich, there was a talk about data analytics and how to use them for your marketing plan. And there was also a talk about how to embed storytelling into your marketing. But then there's also kind of segments of group work where we kind of people kind of self-organize into groups based on what they're interested in and the problem they want to solve, and they work through it collaboratively together.
Thank you, Bethan. Um, we offer, in some cases, we ask people if they can afford to come to this to get their institution to pay. But if there's a reason they can't, for some cases, not all, we are able to offer accommodation support where in the past, I think we've bulk booked rooms or hotel rooms, things like that, or Airbnbs, so that people have at least some of that covered as well. And at the end, we will ask people to participate in a short graduation where everyone shares, here's what I knew, here it came in, here's what I've done while I learned, and present it to the world. So sort of like five minute presentation. It's quick, but it's sweet. And I think my favorite graduation story comes from the very, very first graduation that we did for the OLS Open Science training. where a lady said, my mum couldn't come to my wedding and she couldn't come to my PhD defense, but she made it to my graduation from OLS. And that's just always been in my heart. Super precious. Um, the calls are 90 minutes long, one a week, and the in-person part is roughly in the middle between the calls. So the idea is you'll get to meet people online a bit, and then if you get to the in-person bit, then you will get to meet some of those people in person, and then we'll continue with the last 3 weeks of the course after the in-person component. So yeah, timing. Right now, applications are open. They are open, I think, until the end of the weekend or maybe Monday. Anyway, the end of the second. That's the early bird ones. If you don't have to worry about a visa to get to the Schengen area, or if you're not planning to come in person, then I would absolutely say it's fine to just focus on the August 15th deadline, which is the late deadline. We just wanted to make sure that people had as much time as possible to issue visa letters, because that can be a fun process. So if you are part of the early ones, then we will let you know by August 14th whether or not you're being accepted. And if you stick to the late deadline, then we will let you know by the start of September. Um, in terms of what applications look like, it's a reasonably short form, but we're looking for people who already have some experience working in open research, and they specifically are interested in understanding the communication and working on the communication aspects. So if you're looking for a general open science training, this probably isn't necessarily the one that you'd want to apply for. We run other cohorts of training that focus specifically on open science as opposed to outreach, marketing, and comms. Some of the other ones, not this one, do come potentially with NASA certificates, so that can be a nice fancy thing to add to your portfolio as well. Um, the first session online, the kickoff, which is actually like session zero, is on the 23rd of September. That will be mostly a meet and greet and here's how things work. Um, Midday for Europeans, different times of day depending on where else you might be in the world. This should probably be pretty friendly for India and East Asia, less friendly for the Americas, unless people don't like sleeping at night, which sometimes happens. Yeah, and the in-person component will be October 21 and 22 if you are hoping to come to Zurich. So, some of the topics we cover. Oop, I pressed the button too fast. Who are you marketing to? Why? And what are you actually trying to tell them? Working and developing your own very unique voice and brand. Choosing the right communication channels. For example, if none of your target audience uses Facebook, probably won't be so useful. But if everyone does, you might want to use it even if you don't like Facebook. Um, Serving your message on social media. It's like I accidentally preempted the very next one there. Presenting and speaking as well. Podcasting. I heard Patricia accidentally may have committed to some podcasts recently and is now asking herself why she did that. um, Working with video, email, and also when we come to marketing, that can sometimes almost sound like a dirty word, like, oh, no, no, don't make me do marketing. That's like what sleazy people do. And so we talk about how to actually market yourself or market your work in a way that is honest and kind and thoughtful and actually useful and pleasant for everyone. Uh, Involving allies in your work, strategizing your comms, and one of the most common questions we had in OSPARK 1 and 2 was, I think this is great, but how do I tell my boss that this is actually great so that they don't mind that I spend time on this? So one of the things that we've learned is that that's one of the modules, so that will be something we add in as one of the extras based on what we've learned from the first two cohorts. Um, Once again, I've preempted my slides. As we mentioned, we spend a lot of time iterating. So we actually are also running research on this as well. Uh, Bethan has designed some totally awesome studies, some surveys, and some observational focus groups to understand what researchers feel like they need. what researchers feel like is missing. And we've been iterating and, like I mentioned, adding modules to the course based on what people have actually been asking as well. And Bethan's early work was actually a lot of literature review, grey literature as well, because, influencers, there may or may not be as many papers on them, but we know they're effective, to try and understand some of the techniques that we should be using and sharing with people. So, that sounds interesting to you. Then this is where I ask Bethan to kindly post this link in the chat as well. This is the link to register. Um, and then we go through the approval process. Like I said, it takes a couple of weeks for us to go through everyone and also to let you know about visa letters and stipends and things like that. Um, if you're interested in other ways, you can also share this with people. There's still a couple of weeks to apply. There's a couple of research workshops. I told myself to put the link to those in here, and I did not. Bethan, if you find the link to the survey and the research workshops, please do also pop those in chat. Um, and if it's something that interests you in general, we are also open to offering this more in-house or offering additional cohorts after the grant period has expired. Um, I think that's just about everything. I'm the person on the right, Bethan's the person on the left, and our DRA friends who are also doing this with us are the people in the middle. There's a newsletter here as well if you want to hold your phone up to the monitor and snap that. If not, there's links in the slides, which we've also provided. And so now I will first ask Bethan if there's anything obvious that I forgot to add, and then we'll open for Q&A.
I don't think so. I think you got everything.
Such faith, such faith. All right, folks. I pause for Q&A and also quickly check the chat. Feel free to either unmute or to post in chat. Either is fine.
I I have a question.
Bring it on.
So is the component in Zurich, is that very essential? I mean, I could still join because I'm based in Hanover in Germany. And for folks who are not able to join this in-person module, do they still, can they still attend the online module?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So inclusion is really important to us. And whilst we know that like a lot of people really value in person, we also know that it's it's really hard sometimes for people. You might just have a new kid. It might be that even traveling a short distance is hard. There's so many reasons, or it might be a long distance, which is even more hard. So yeah, the in-person bit will probably be fun, but we're absolutely designing this and intending that people participate online and get a very good experience online only as well. I will pause a little bit longer, and then if it's still quiet, I will turn the recording off. So if you'd prefer private questions, that can be done too. All right. If you're watching this on the webinar and the dates have already passed, I apologize. Sorry, if you're watching this on YouTube and the dates have already passed, I apologize. But thank you everyone for your time.